Hello everyone, and welcome to Picture the Scene podcast, hosted by me, Andrew.
And me, Rachel.
We are a true crime podcast, so listener caution is always advised, and I do go into more detail than I would like to for this episode on details about violence and death today. So there is your warning if you need it.
Oh dear. Can I tune out at this episode?
No, you have no choice, Rachel. Before we go any further, I want to give a huge thanks to our latest Patreon supporter, Robin DeAndre Bishop, who has just signed up, and just in time, may I add, because later on this week we'll be releasing our very first Patreon episode, which is written and led by Rachel. Rachel, do you have any idea what you're going to do the episode on yet?
I do. I've got quite a well-known case from the States that I'm writing about. Some of our listeners may have heard of her, Michelle Carter. It's a very interesting case, quite intricate. I believe she might have been the first person to be tried for murder when the victim, in fact, committed suicide. So, or manslaughter, sorry. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one for our special Patreon supporters to listen to. And yeah, I'm excited to present the case.
Great, I look forward to it too. If you'd like to become a supporter of ours, you can do so for less than the price of a cup of tea or coffee. We have to be showy quality, don't we? The link to our Patreon episode can be found in our show notes, along with the links to all of our social media accounts. But I also want to, but before we go a little bit extra, I'd like to also give a couple of extra announcements. If any of you out there listen to Paul and his cat Peaks, who is the true crime enthusiast, or Bob and Ali from Twisted Britain, and I say if any, because I suspect that all of you do already, tomorrow, which is the day this episode is released, so today, if you listen to this on release day, we'll be recording a three-way collaboration with them, which I'm super excited about, and I'm aiming to release this possibly by the end of this week at the latest, though that may change, so keep your ears out for that.
How exciting. This will be my first collaboration, won't it, with other pods, official pods.
It will be, yes, and if that wasn't enough, it's just like buses, you wait all the time and two come along at once, because next week we are guesting on the True Crime B&B podcast, which is a personal favourite of mine, so I'll pop up a note on our social medias once they release that episode.
OMG, can't wait. Spending a lot of time recording in my favorite place, so that's exciting.
Yes, indeed. So, Rachel, we are busy, busy, busy bees all the next couple of weeks. Have you had your vaccinations, seeing as you're going to be spending so much time with me?
I have. I got the flu jab last week. I bet you were thinking that I wouldn't have an answer to that, weren't you?
I was, yes, always with an answer. So,
Yeah.
how are you doing, Rach? What's new?
I'm excited. Yeah, got a couple of holidays coming up. Feel like Mark on Seeing Red, always off on holiday. So lots of recording coming up now, so that we can still you our listeners can still enjoy both of us on the pod, even when I'm abroad sunning myself.
Very nice. And more importantly, are you ready for some true crime?
Very excited for some true crime. But before we get into it, how have you been?
How have I been? I've been sparkling. Thank you very much. I've been
Good.
sparkling, busy writing away, and just enjoying lots of different true crime content. Actually, a question for you, and maybe one for you out there to listen to. And I wasn't going to ask this question. It just popped into my head. I was reading a lot recently on people complaining online, not about us, luckily, but complaining that a lot of true crime podcasts only ever focus on male perpetrators and female victims.
Not
Now,
true.
yeah, no, I was thinking I've never actively noticed that, but maybe it's just me being blind to the fact. Do you think that's true?
I would actually say that at least my last three scripts have been about female perpetrators.
Yeah, I thought so. I just thought, because there's
So I'm
people.
I'm definitely bringing the diversity to picture the scene.
Yeah, it's an odd one. Because I thought that, at first I thought, I don't ever recall that. People just, obviously different podcasts have different styles and have different ways of telling their content, but usually it's all different, isn't it? It's what makes good content, not I'm only going
Yeah,
to pick female victims. Yeah, I thought so.
that's exactly what I was just about to say. Like, it is never for me based on, ooh, right, I did a man last time, so I'm going to do a woman, or I've looked at a couple of cases involving children, so I'm definitely going to do adults. Like, I am more drawn to cases that are either suggested, which I'm like, oh, good shout, let's have a look into that, and I learn something, or cases that I've seen covered loads on other like outlets like Netflix documentaries or Sky documentaries that I want to add like I guess an extra layer to. So yeah, and I would rather write something that I'm attracted to writing rather than just ticking a box and kind of doing it because I need to be looking at different types of victims or perpetrators all the time, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
But yeah,
So,
interesting point.
isn't it? So, let's get started then. I think they've
Yeah.
heard us waffle on too much already, haven't they? If it's safe for you all to do so, I'd like you to relax, close your eyes, and picture the scene. Today we're going to be going back less than a year to December the 17th, 2021, and I'd like to take us to Wales, and in particular to Pembroke. Now, Pembroke is a town in Pembrokeshire, in Wales.
Sorry.
Shut up again. Is that funny? Does that sound
No,
odd?
no, it's fine. Don't worry.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
laughing. Pembroke is a town in Pembrokeshire. It was
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, no, carry on, please.
Uh,
And hello to our listeners from Pembrokeshire.
should I cut that? Should I just carry on or cut that out? And start again.
As in why?
I'm going to cut that out. Is that
Okay.
okay? No,
Yeah.
in fact, no, I won't. I'll cut the bit out asking if I'm going to cut it out. So, and Pembrokeshire is in Wales, which can be dated back to at least 1168, though it's likely to be older. It's a small town with a population of under 10,000 and it's known for its historic buildings, one of them being its castle where Henry VII was born back in 1457. So enough of the history lesson. Back to 2021 now, and it's the early hours of the morning I'd like us to focus on. With it being the middle of the night in winter, it wasn't warm, but it was constant. The temperature staying dry but cold at around 8 degrees Celsius mark, which is around 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, at the best of times, teenagers and people who are young, and some older people as well, need no excuse to go out and enjoy themselves. And so they should. But with Christmas so near, it gave so many more that opportunity, or excuse, whichever way you look at it, to let the proverbial hair down and have some fun. Lily Sullivan was no different. She was an 18-year-old local to the area and was full of life. She was loved by her family and friends and was one of those people that when you say you didn't have a bad bone in her body, you actually meant it. She was described as beautiful, forgiving and kind, who was both trustworthy and a dependable friend. Now, she loved to doodle and she was a talented artist. As a student at a local college, she did what most people her age did. She was learning to drive, she loved clothes and makeup, and music.
I feel like it's not going to be a happy ending.
Unfortunately, not now. She had recently only just started going out with her friends frequently to pubs and bars, all of which is really normal and expected from people her age.
Mm.
Her mum actually mentioned that she'd had some trauma in her past, detail that wasn't gone into what it actually was, but she said things had just started turning normal for her, hence a more frequent time spent with friends going out drinking in bars and pubs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can all like look back on our teenage years and think that's been like whether it's like major trauma or small trauma of being a teenager that would keep us from going out and enjoying ourselves. But nice that she kind of got over that. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I say, I'm feeling like it's not all positive. There's going to be a big but coming.
There is a big book coming. I don't think that's a surprise to you or anyone else. With the night of the 16th and the early hours of the 17th being dry, it probably helped the decision of people who wanted to go out, including Lily. So Lily and her friends would end up in a local nightclub called Out. It's well known actually by its previous name, Paddles. So she had a good time that evening. And at some point, she met a Lewis Haynes, and she became friendly with him, as you do when you're in a club. So before she had gone out, she actually agreed with her mum that her mum would pick her up at 2 a.m. so she could take her home. So sometimes it's easy to gloss over little details like this, Rachel, but I don't think we should really, because by doing this, I think it actually speaks volumes about the character of both Lily and her mum, because
Mm.
it shows that they had a loving relationship, that it was built on trust both ways, and it also shows that they considered each other. And both of these things only ever happen if a good love exists between people.
I'm not gonna lie to you as well. Sometimes, if my mum is out at the bingo and I need a lift home, I'm gonna call her, even at the grand old age of 36.
And why not?
But anyway, Lily, yeah, you're absolutely right. Lily obviously, wasn't worried as most teenagers would be about being seen with their mum as well at the end of a night, right? They'd want to make their own way home for independence reasons. But yeah, no, that's really, really quaint, charming.
Shortly before 2 a.m., at around 1:50ish, CCTV showed Lily leaving the nightclub, and a different CCTV camera shows her mum waiting for her in the
Mm.
nearby green garage so that she can take her home.
Oh my God, because she's so close to her.
Yeah, the same CCTV that showed Lily leaving the club showed a couple of minutes later Lewis Haynes leaving the nightclub alone.
Oh God.
So quickly, they both started talking. And we don't know what they were talking about because there was no sound on the CCTV. But different cameras showed them talking to each other and walking to an alleyway, which is near a local pond called Mill Pond. Now the CCTV, it shows them going into the alley. And I'm going to pop the CCTV up actually on our social media pages. But just to clarify, so we don't want to confuse anyone. They went into the alleyway at around 1:57, but the third camera actually says 1:51 because its time was a little off. But we know it was 1:57 because of the other two cameras, and it actually links up. You can see the continuous walk of them both.
And it's not unusual for CCTV cameras to be slightly out of time, is it? There.
Yeah. It confused me when I first saw them, so I thought I'd better put that out there.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that while they were outside of the nightclub before they started walking, a friend of Lily's shouted at Lewis, asking him what he was doing because he had a girlfriend, and they also told him that Lily was only 18 years old.
Oh God. Do we know how old Lewis is? Sorry.
You do, did I forgot to put that in there, didn't I? Yeah, we do. Say something smart and witty while I'm looking.
Only because I think in this day and age, it is quite different culture, isn't it, for like gaps in age. It's not as acceptable, is it?
No, it's not. No, sorry, I forgot to put that in. He was 31 years old.
Right. So now, for context, I understand why somebody's screaming at him saying she's only 18, because that is quite an age difference. And to be fair as well, for his own protection, he should be warned because she may not be yet 18. There's a lot
Yes.
of men and women that go out to nightclubs that are underage and that are telling lies and get themselves in situations, and the people that end up being punished are the people that weren't aware of their age and wouldn't have pursued um the person had they have known their real age. So oh yeah, no, but that's a bit scary, that age gap there.
So what we know is he definitely knew her age because
Yeah.
the friend shouted it, and Lily also found out at that point that he had a girlfriend.
Gosh.
Because obviously a friend shouted it as well.
And let's just establish she's 3 minutes away from getting picked up by her mum, like,
Yes.
as well. Like, what I guess she's kind of thinking this kind of engagement, whatever it is, with him will be over in minutes.
Well, maybe, yeah. Maybe not. So I'll carry on and I'll let you see what you think in a few moments. All of this we know is a fact because we had the CCTV which shows it. So before I fill in the details with what we suspect happened, I'm going to jump forward slightly, Rachel, and present more of what we know for sure. Because it's better to have all the facts and then it helps to fill the details in. So
Absolutely.
after waiting for Lily to appear for a lift and texting her and calling her, Lily and her mum, that is, spoke at 2:47 a.m.
What?
So with Lily's mum, Anna, asking where she was.
What a good mum as well, just like fully, staying parked in the car, thinking she's going to turn up. I'll just keep on trying
Yes.
her.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easy to lose track of time a little bit, especially when you're a little bit drunk, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, been there, done that. So that's what I mean. Like, some mums might be kind of at the car storming around the nightclub. Have you seen my daughter? But Anna seems like she's calm and collected, just patiently waiting.
Yeah, so what we know is 2:47 because this is when Lily actually picked up. And Lily said to her, I'm nearly there. But then her phone cut off. Over the next 70 minutes or so, her mum tried
17?
70. Yeah, so her mum tried to call her about 30 times
Oh my God.
with no luck while she waited. And then looked for her. Then she went looking for her up to about 4 a.m. So moving back slightly.
Can I just say,
Yeah,
that must have been one of the scariest, like 2 hours of her life. Thinking
definitely.
like so close to where my daughter is, but God knows what's happened.
Definitely. So, like I said, I want to do all the facts first. Just to move back slightly, because I want to go through all the facts first. At 3:08 a.m., CCTV in the town caught Lewis running across a bridge near Pembroke Castle,
At,
alone.
at 3:08.
Yeah, 3:08. So this was 2:47. Her mum spoke to her,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is what 21 minutes, if my maths is correct. Afterwards, and it showed him running across the bridge alone. Now at 3:10 a.m., 2 minutes later, the CCTV that showed Anna, her mum, waiting in the car at Green Garage for her, it actually showed Lewis walking past and their eyes meeting briefly as he looked around and him walking off with his hands on his head.
Oh wow. So she met
Well,
him
she
face to
saw him,
face.
yeah, their eyes locked,
Completely unbeknown to her, he would have been the last person to see her daughter.
potentially, yes.
Wow.
So just before 4 a.m., Lewis got home, he returned home, and he immediately woke his partner up. Or actually, I don't know if she was awake or not, but he told his partner, Maisie John, whom he lived with, along with their daughter, that he'd strangled someone,
Wow.
and that person was in Mill Pond. He then phoned his mum up, and this is what he said to her: "I've strangled someone. They are in Mill Pond." So he then went on to keep apologising to his mum, saying that he was sorry. Now, as soon as his mum told her husband, his stepdad, the stepdad phoned the police up straight away. Uh,
Absolutely, as you would.
and this was at 4:12 a.m. So the police went to the scene straight away and they found the body of Lily face down in the pond. Despite the efforts of the emergency services to resuscitate her, she was pronounced dead at 6:02 a.m. She was dead when they found her, but officially pronounced dead at 6:02 a.m. So Lily was a person that they found in a pond, and she had been strangled to death. That is not in doubt. So now the time between 1:57 and 3:08, which is an hour and 11 minutes. That time, only two people know exactly what happened
Mm.
completely, and that's Lewis and Lily. So we know, as we just listened and found out, that she spoke to her mum at 2:47 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that she was alive then. She had to be because she spoke to her, and she wasn't felt. She must have not felt like she was in danger then, or at least
No,
because she,
she's
the
not
first, yeah,
distressed.
yeah. So that leaves a window of 21 minutes from her speaking to her mum to CCTV showing Lewis running over the bridge alone at 3:08 a.m. So because Lily is not here to tell her side of the story, I can't share that because we don't know what she experienced and she felt. But I will share what Lewis said happened. But I also want to share the conclusion that the judge came to because
Mm.
I believe anyway, in my own opinion, but I want you all to decide for yourselves, that the judge's account is closer to what happened than Lewis's.
Mm.
But let's see what you think, Rachel. So firstly, Lewis did admit to killing Lily, but his defence was that it was manslaughter, not murder. And Lewis said that they were kissing and getting close in the alleyway
Mm-hmm.
before Lily confronted him about having a girlfriend. And he said that she then demanded money from him,
Wow.
saying to him that unless he gave her money, she would tell his girlfriend that he raped her.
So his solution to that was to kill her.
Well, he said then that what happened straight after that, he grabbed her by the neck, he punched her in the face, and then he pushed her. And they were near the pond now at this point. And he said that she fell into the water. And that he jumped into the water to try and save her, to pull her out, but he couldn't. So he panicked and left her. And the rest of the story, he said, is what you could see in the camera, him running away over the bridge. And that's why he had his hands on his head and why he confessed when he got home.
I'm confused if he wanted to help her so much. And clearly going home to admit to both his girlfriend and his mum, there must have been something in him telling him, like, you know, not to lie and to be honest about what's happened. Why on earth he ran instead of screaming for help?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It depends what his mind was at that moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get onto the judge's conclusion as to what happened, let's just look at a few more facts. When Lily was found, she was found topless, with her coat and a cream top that she had on that evening nearby. It had been determined that she died from strangulation, no other method. So her phone was found in the alleyway, along with her tobacco tin. That both of them went into the alleyway. So a phone and a tobacco tin was in the alleyway. And CCTV would actually show every time her mum tried to phone her, very grainy CCTV would show that phone lighting up. As phones light up when someone calls. And it was on the floor. So after 2:47, she must have been in the alleyway at 2:47 because she spoke to her mum on the phone.
Mm.
And the phone was found in the alleyway. So her phone never left the alleyway. And I think it's safe to deduce from the fact that she told her mum, well, I think anyway, tell me if I'm wrong, Rachel, that she was almost with her. It showed that she intended to go to her mum, not towards the pond with Lewis or anything else. Because if she would have either said something else to her mum, or she wouldn't have answered at all if she intended to go to the pond and go further away and do whatever.
Yeah, like to me, there are a couple of things, and I'd absolutely say yes, that is one of them. She's gone further away from her mum when in fact, she's saying, I'm not far away, I'll be right with you. But I will caveat that with, I'm sure we've all been late for a dinner date or, a school pickup or something like that. And we've said, oh, I'm only a couple of minutes away, knowing full well we are a good 20 minutes away. And by the time we get there, we will blame the traffic or bumping into somebody. We have been at times probably all guilty of saying, yeah, I'm just around the corner, mum, don't worry, I will be there. So there's potential that yes, you may well have been near
Potential,
that
but
pond.
let's remember though, Rachel, that her phone and a tobacco tin was found in the alleyway.
Oh
So,
yes, sorry, good point.
so to me, that makes me feel like there was a struggle, and she was forcibly taken towards the pond.
Dragged. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no, good shout. Well, I think that despite the fact that yeah, there's still 50 minutes unaccounted for between her entering the alleyway and her taking that call off her mum. So for me, what's gone on there? Like, have they just been talking and like openly like chatting about like, oh, you look nice tonight and all that kind of like flirty kind of discussion that has taken a turn for worse? Or has he been saying to her, come on, and she's been going, no, no, I need to go home. And he's been pursuing her and then he's let her go. She's taken a call from her mum and then he's kind of turned on her, taken the phone off of her, obviously, and then kind of seen red, if you like.
well,
It's interesting that that 50 minutes for me hasn't really been accounted for.
what I think may have happened is, there may have been like she may have intended it to go so far. It may have gone in the alleyway. To me, it sounds like maybe like a kiss and a cuddle, but she only wanted it to go a certain amount of way.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
when she said no,
yeah, yeah.
his pride or whatever got hurt, and he saw red, and he didn't like the fact that she was saying no to him, and that's when something bad may have happened. I think that I think he probably killed her in the alleyway, which is
Mm,
why her phone and like the things that she was probably holding. Because I used to smoke. I don't know if you did, Rachel, but when you're about to do something, especially if you're a little bit drunk, you have a cigarette. So she may have decided that part has ended, and she's just making herself, because it's a tobacco tin, so it's rolling
yeah,
tobacco. She was making
yeah,
herself a cigarette to go to her mum. So
yeah.
he may have or got it at least out of a bag, and he saw red, and that's why the phone and a tobacco tin was on the floor. So that could have been it. Who knows?
Isn't it crazy how most humans will obviously have their pride damaged, right? But they'll just go on to, suck it up.
Yeah.
He could have gone home to his girlfriend. He could have snuggled up with her for the rest of the night. And yeah, she might have said, "Oh, I'll find you and I'll tell your girlfriend." But he could have just apologized profusely, put it down to, having too many drinks and kind of gotten over that. But no, he went somewhere that not a lot of people go. That
Yeah.
is, I'm gonna silence you and make sure that you never tell anybody.
Oh,
And, in doing so, ruin the rest of my life as well.
yeah. Or alternatively, maybe she said no at some point. She was planning to go, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. And at some point, that's when it escalated, and she was maybe struggling, and who knows, but I think she definitely died in an alleyway due to the fact that her possessions were on the floor, and
Mm,
he probably dragged her to the pond. I'm
nasty,
guessing.
nasty person.
But what do you think out there? Let us know on the social medias. But Lewis was found guilty of murder, not manslaughter. With the defence requesting that he serve a minimum of 15 years in prison this is at the sentencing hearing, and the prosecution requesting 30 years. In the hearing to determine the sentence, the prosecution argued that because Lily was found topless, it showed that the crime was sexually motivated, unlike what Lewis had said what happened. Because if he said that he got angry, he grabbed her by the neck, he punched her, and she fell in the pond. If that would happen, she would have still had the top on. And if that would have happened, she wouldn't have been strangled.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what really annoys me about people that tell lies in the court. Like, not stupid. There are circumstances in which like there's evidence that means like, you can be proven wrong. And what on earth the um defense attorney did to allow him to lie on the stand and
Well,
say what he said
just
is
to,
beyond me.
I've probably been a little bit misleading here. He wanted to do manslaughter. He wasn't actually found guilty of murder because he actually pled guilty. Because a week before, sorry, that was I will leave that in. That was my dog deciding that it's time to wake up and go downstairs.
Don't apologize. I have a kid in the next room, like trying to run away about losing a cardigan at school. So now I'm with you on the distractions, and I'm sorry if anyone can hear it.
So yeah, the evidence was quite clearly against him.
Mm.
So a week before the trial, Lewis changed his plea because he was pleading guilty to manslaughter, and
Oh, okay.
he changed it guilty to murder a week before the trial. So there was actually no trial because he pled guilty to murder, but that was a week before, and simply because it was obvious that the evidence was against him.
Yeah,
So
and absolutely I don't think you've been misleading there. I think I'm just more getting wound up with what I've seen and heard in other cases and just tarring this case with the same brush that, the person thinks that they can get away with lying in court and it'll never be the case because there's evidence.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that makes sense. He's changed his play, and I'm sure the family were very grateful for not being, taken through a court hearing with, people potentially ripping apart Lily, um, in terms of her character and her intent that night, and God, he definitely made her out to be not very nice by, what he said about the manslaughter comments. Oh, she threatened me, so I was trying to silence her. Like,
Yeah, but
you know,
he still stuck to that defence as it wasn't sexually motivated. But the judge agreed with the prosecution.
good.
He said that he thought it was a sexually motivated crime, but so this was during a sentencing hearing. But the judge said he was obliged to give two reductions to the 30-year sentence that the prosecution was suggesting. One was because he pled guilty. In the UK you get an automatic reduction of the sentence for pleading guilty and not going to trial. And secondly, the judge said because there was no evidence of premeditation that happened on the spur of the moment, that there was a second reduction sentence for that. So he was sentenced to serve a minimum of 23 years in prison, and this was in August of this year.
Because he pled guilty for murder, will he have to accept, in some cases, you'll never be eligible for parole if you don't accept responsibility. Will he ever have to accept that it was a sexually motivated crime?
No.
Or because he's pled guilty, he's accepted responsibility but can still claim his story?
Yeah, he just has to accept that he killed her, which he did with the
Okay.
guilty plea. So no, he doesn't have to accept that it was sexually motivated. So when the judge was summarising before giving the 23 years, he explained what he believed happened. He actually did start with saying, that no one will exactly know what happened in the alleyway because Lewis refused to tell anyone. So he was quite scathing about him in this. He said he believed Lily had told him that she would complain about what he had done, so he strangled her to shut her up. And actually, a chunk of her hair was found in a zip of her bag.
Ah.
So that shows that there must have been a struggle as well. The judge later went on to dismiss Lewis's claim that he jumped into the water to try and save her, and said Lily must have been terrified, and Lewis's only concern was obvious that it was his own self-preservation. That the following story was that he went home and that was just made up because he'd thought about it on the way home. And the judge implied, he didn't actually say it outright, but he implied that that's probably why he told his wife and his mum to back up the story, that it was an accident, that it was a heat of the moment thing.
Good shout, because I think that's actually something he has had the time to concoct that, to get his head straight, and to what did you say, there was an hour and 40 or 50 minutes and accounted for?
From him crossing the bridge, it was like 3:08 a.m. and he got home just before 4. So, and he walked home.
Right,
so he had a 52-minute walk home to think.
And isn't it crazy what goes through somebody's head when he's been thinking, I definitely won't be punished that badly if I tell them that, it wasn't intentional. Like, you've killed somebody. There's a long punishment, a long time in jail awaiting you.
Yes, but let's think about this. We saw he could have got 30 years for murder.
Yeah.
He could have got indefinite. For manslaughter, you can get single-digit numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's 31. He could have been thinking I could be out by the time I'm 40.
I wonder whether they ever checked his phone records, see what he Googled.
Yeah, maybe.
You always see people slipping up with Googling, don't you?
They probably did, but because he pled guilty a week before the trial, none of that had to come into evidence, did it? Because they didn't need it. But you'd imagine they would have done.
This is why I love true crime podcasts, though, because they unlock other people's opinions on what victims and perpetrators are thinking before, during, and after crimes occurred, which is something that I find is lacking in conversation in our household. So at least when I hear people talking about it and we talk about it on Picture the Scene, it's kind of nice conversation and debate on not nice topics. I appreciate, but yeah. Okay, interesting. Thanks.
So just before we wrap up, Lily's mum, after the sentencing, she gave a really heart-wrenching statement. And it's one that you could tell how broken she was and how much she loves Lily. Now, I'm not going to read it verbatim. It's quite long, and I think that would detract a little bit. But it is out there if you Google. But I'm going to tell you just the summary of it. She said in a statement that she has suffered 14 miscarriages prior to giving birth to Lily. And that she'd already given up on having children, and then Lily came along and gave her purpose in life. She went on to describe how Lily was, and I mentioned that at the beginning. That's where I got a description of her at the beginning. So I won't go back into that. But she went on to say that she now suffers from panic attacks, that she can't sleep, and she can't let herself feel emotions or have anyone close to her. We have to remember this was 2 months ago that she said this, in August, so it's still obviously very raw for her. She said that she doesn't understand why she's still here and Lily isn't, and she said that she only exists now so that one day she can see Lily again, and that her life will be on pause until that happens. She went on to describe how Lewis looked her in the eye as he walked past her in the car. And at that moment, he knew that she was waiting for Lily. and he also knew that he'd just killed her. And he said that she can't forgive him because he chose not to help her. He chose not to go to the mum. If he was really, obviously, she didn't say this, but if he was really that sorry, why walk for 15 minutes? Why not go straight to the mum? Um,
Mm.
I just want to read the last few paragraphs of the statement because I think it gives a perfect sense of what she is going through, and it really touched a nerve with me. So this is verbatim. The awful way her life was taken, I feel absolutely broken. I wish I could go back in time and stop her going out. I wish I could protect her from the evil that she met that night. I will never understand why this happened, as it did not need to happen. The senseless actions of one person has caused unbearable pain. To have such disregard for someone's life is beyond comprehension. Things will never be the same. The loss I feel cannot be described. I am existing in a constant nightmare. My life is on pause until it is my time and we can be together again. So I think that just touched that just touched a nerve in me, and I think it
These
sums it
victim
up.
statements are the hardest part of these cases because you get an actual insight into. I mean, it's bad enough losing somebody, isn't it? But when there's a case and somebody goes to prison because of the loss, it's just awful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is awful, and I don't know if it's because it's so recent. Sometimes, like when we cover cases from the 70s or 60s or whatnot, it's a little bit detached because it's happened. But this
Yeah.
is literally, I think it was like, I might have my dates wrong. I think it was the 21st of August that he got
Mm.
convicted. So it wasn't that long ago.
No, and
So,
I also think as well, like, you'll obviously put some pictures up on the socials, but the case itself, like, they've still got an active Instagram profile, and there are
yes.
still, photos that you can see that were taken like this time last year. That in its own right is difficult because now you can get to be so much closer to the victims, can't you? Empathize with
Yeah.
them, look at that, what it was that they would be doing this time of year, and find something that's you share in common with them. We know so much more, don't we, with
Yeah.
true crime in this day and age.
Exactly. And even like on her Instagram profile, she posts about Sarah Everard and things like that. So, she was
Oh God.
it was just, and I
And
posted about
uh,
being careful about having your drink spiked and stuff like that, and you just feel,
I think what really stays with me that you said is that she'd only just really started kind of going out and exploring that part of her life. So, still so young really, and with her life ahead of her, and so to be so cruelly taken away by some asshole that didn't get his own way or that was, too scared to be found out is just tragic.
exactly. But before we go into what we thought about it and just sum up, I really want to finish this off by celebrating Lily a little bit because
Great.
let's forget about Lewis. Like you mentioned, her Instagram page is open and she can be found, and it really shows in a few pictures she has what type of person she is, and it shows from the photos the fun interactions that she has with her friends, and even I say what's really sad is that I think there's 5 photos posted from that actual night out that she put on just hours before her death, but it gives you a glimpse of what her personality is like and how like in the comments it's the interaction she had with her friends. It's you can tell she's just like a fun person and quite a nice person.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like parents especially don't want the victims to be remembered by the awful way they were taken or by the person that took their life, but actually by the 18 years or so leading up to that when they were happy go lucky, like bright, full of energy individuals.
Exactly. So I think we've probably said quite a lot on this, but this is quite a sad story, don't you think, Rach? One that was unnecessary. What if he'd have just stopped? What his pride on might have been hurt at the very worst. His wife, or sorry, his girlfriend would have found out, and to be fair, he shouldn't have been doing it anyway. So it's a risk that you take, but yeah, it's just unnecessary, I think, and quite sad.
Absolutely. I mean, really tragic story, really, so close to Christmas as well, just makes it, adds salts to the wound, really. But
he'll
thank you. That was a really interesting case, and you approached it sensitively. So thanks for bringing that to us.
and he'll be, if he gets out at the minimum time, which he probably will do, because he's got 20 odd years to make sure he says the right things when it comes to the pro time. He'll be 54 when he gets out. It just seems a bit too young to me.
It does, especially because that girl doesn't get to see her 20s, 30s, have kids, get married, fall in love, all that wonderful stuff.
Exactly. So for one last time, if it's safe for you to do so, I'd like all of you to relax. Close your eyes and picture the scene. You spent your whole life looking after, caring, and loving for your children. You finally see them maturing and blossoming at the start of their adult life. You see what type of person they're turning into, and it fills your heart with joy. What would it feel like to have all that hope and love just wrenched away from you? So thank you, everyone. I'm not going to try and crack a joke, so I don't think it's suitable right now, but thank you for listening. Remember, we've got the collab with the True Crime Enthusiast and Bob and Ali from Twisted Britain coming out this week, and we've got the new Patreon coming out this week also.
Yeah, it's hard to be excited about those things now. We've just had that really sad episode, but yes, once everyone's ready to, definitely tune in for our next episode.
Okay, thank you all. Goodbye.
Thanks all. Bye.